I'm glad I'm recording the other stuff. That's okay. Okay. What we're looking at when you're doing the basement, if you're doing a porch, you cannot have windows underneath the porch. Okay. So where your porch is not where bedrooms go. That can be where the family room is. It can be any room, but bedrooms have to have windows, and they have the same requirements that the upstairs bedrooms have. So pay attention to that, where that's at. We'll put in window wells as we get the site fully developed. And as I told most of you already, if you've got topo down, if it's in your road, just delete it for right now. It took, what, 4 clicks to put the dang thing in. It's not worth fighting it. If it's in your road, just delete it for right now. It's just grass. And that stuff grows super fast, okay? So just let it go. Then you have your upper floor, if you're upstairs. If you have bedroom stuff, you need all those. You're doing the same things you did on the first floor. Same exterior walls, same interior walls, same water wall behind the water closet, that 6-inch partition. Everything's the same. There's nothing new for either of those areas. The only difference is the basement, you have a concrete wall first, okay? If you have a crawl space, that's cool. It's still a concrete foundation. And that's, who is it that, besides my friend over there with the really good, thick Latin American hair? That's you. Yeah, I'm slightly envious, but we'll let that be another issue. I more like the Widow's Peak coming down. Did you ever play back Dracula as in elementary school? Were you a vampire? Stop chewing the chips, man. Were you ever a vampire in Halloween? No, because you got that little Widow's Peak coming here. It's kind of cool. When you get a little bit older, it's gonna be really kind of good for you. Yeah, your colleges will be really, really friendly for you. So you have a crawl space, right? On yours, that's what you help with. Okay, who else does not have your foundation down besides my friend over there? Just one? Is it just one? 2. Okay, so I knew there was at least one more. So 2 of you. Okay, so I'm gonna try and get you guys caught up somehow. Now the rest of you, I'm gonna give you a bigger challenge. We're at framing. And framing is, I'm sorry for those who are not here, this is a complex little endeavor. We got to figure out what size floor framing we need. So the assignment this week is flooring systems. Dude, those chips are freaking loud. Talkies. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to size the framing member, and we have to lay them out in our floor. So this is gonna take us about an hour, and then I'm gonna go build those guys out as quick as I possibly can, because that's what I gotta do. It's my, I don't know if it's a curse or a blessing, one of those two, but it could be a worse jobs. There are worse jobs in the world, right? There's always worse things. All right, so we're in our house. We're gonna do our framing. You're gonna need to use Google a little bit today. So we're going to start with that. And I'm going to take you to a website here. So if you will open up Google, and we're going to do a search for a truss joist span chart. So truss, T-R-U-S-S, joist, J-O-I-S-T, span, S-P-A-N, chart. C-H-A-R-T. So truss joist chart. I used to print these all out, but it becomes kind of a lot of paper. When you open that up, what we're going to see here, you're going to get British Columbia. This comes up first because they're paying. That's what this little ad thing is. When you see these in your internet searches, these little ads, don't click on those. You're just going to get a bunch of malware and cookies, and your internet's going to run slow. Go to the company you intend. So we're going to use Weyerhaeuser, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what Weyerhaeuser is before we click in there. Weyerhaeuser is a German company. They bought out Boise Cascade, which is in the Intermountain West. That is our neck of the woods. It's Idaho, Wyoming, some of Utah. We don't do a lot of logging in Utah. Washington and Oregon. This is the company that manages the forests in the northwestern United States. Before before Weyerhaeuser bought it out, it was owned by McMillan. And so you'll hear the name McMillan come up a little bit, this one small show. And before that, it was Boise Cascade, which is still around. They make cardboard boxes. They're very much a paper mill type thing. But this is the company that we use to size our TGIs. And these are these big I-beams. There's one at the front of the room. I'm not gonna go get it because I just don't want to and I don't care. You're gonna see a picture in a minute. So we're gonna click on this Weyerhaeuser.com application. It's gonna say TJI, that's for Truss Joist, is what that is. So we click on that, I-beams, and they look like this, okay? Now, this updates about every 4 to 5 years. This updates because I have to redo the engineering for every building code. But the nice thing is the engineering's done. And for those of us doing residential design, that is really good because we can avoid paying an engineer to do this because we don't need an engineer to tell us what we already know. So there's 32 pages here, and we're going to kind of go through. These are engineered I-beams. They look like an eye. There's a little big there, little there, okay? They come in different sizes. You can also get these in metal. Occasionally, if you're doing a very large home, say, 8,000 square feet, you may need to use steel I-beams. We try to avoid that. They're very expensive. These are really nice because one guy can lift a 30-foot one of these and put it down by himself. You only need one guy to place these. They're really strong. Assembly goes great. And what we want to look at is how these kind of work. Now, you're welcome to take the time to go through and study these pages out. These are engineering documents. They give you fire safeties in there, span charts. They give you your economic style up to your really high differentials, which means these hold lots of weight. So if you're doing something that's going to have a lot of weight on it, say a waterbed, you'll be in this range here. Maybe about here, but you're gonna have to account for the weight of that water in the bed. Those are coming back. I don't know why, but people want to sleep on water again. So that's what it is. Okay, now as we go down, when you get down to about page 6, this is when things start to become a little more important for us, okay? So what we have on page 6 is our 9.5 to 16-inch TGIs. These actually, you can get them up to 24 inches thick. That's from the top to the bottom. That makes a very thick floor. You can lay down in that floor in between the areas. I've had one client do that. Their house cost an extra, what was it, $50,000 to do that. But that house will not move. It is it's like when you glue your Legos together. It's not going anywhere. It is locked in tight. Part of the reason they want to do that is they're out in West Weber, and they're on basically an old sandbar for the old Salt Lake or Bonneville Lake, and they're worried about earthquake. Yeah, they're fine. Their house will stay one piece, but still will float away. Okay, it's what it is. I mean, there's some things you just can't. Just because you make it bigger doesn't mean it's better, right? So we have to kind of think about those things. So let's take a look at what's happening here on page 6. And on the, I don't know why I'm gonna make this big now. On the right-hand side, it shows the different size I-beams that you can purchase. So up here at the top, notice that we have dimensions, and these dimensions here give you different values. So everything from a 9.5 inch to a 16 inch, all have this profile. These are all TJI 110s. Okay, so everything in the 110 category falls here. So when we look at the chart, there's a 9.5 of the depth, and 110 is the first row in that chart. Okay, so we see that row right here comes all the way across. Then we have a 210 series, we have a 230, you have your 360, and then your 560s. Your goal on when you do floor framing is this. The fewest number of TGI floor joists that cover the greatest spanning distance. Now a span, if you take your arms and put them up, that's like fingertip to finger, that's a span. So typically that's from foundation wall to foundation wall. Well, if you put a beam or a column in the middle, that cuts the span in half or in thirds or in fourths. So when you're in a basement area and you see columns like that column there and here, it's to reduce the span because it's only where things are supported that count as a span. That makes sense? So when you're doing bridge design, the more support you have, the stronger your bridge is. And that's the big clue to bridge design competitions. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. Now, as we're going down through here, that's going to give some very interesting properties. It's the weight per foot for what these weigh. So if I'm looking at a 9.5 110, it weighs 2.3 pounds for every foot of length. I need to know that because one is it might be needed necessary to bring a crane in if it's too heavy, and two, how much workforce do I need? If I'm the general contractor, do I need 3 guys? Do I need 4 guys? How many guys need to put down this floor system? Knowing the weight tells me that. Okay, now really, if I'm looking at this, 2 pounds, 3 foot, this whole thing's 30 feet long, is gonna weigh 60 pounds. It's less than a sack of flour, you know, big sack, not the little 5-pound baby sacks that you guys have in junior high for your babies. Okay. It's also going to tell me the maximum resistive moment. Now that is when we put things down and we support them on 2 areas. And where did I so, and this is where I need an arm here. So if I've got my ruler here and this supports on 2 ends, there's going to be a natural bend, and I'm going to exaggerate this bend between those. And when we put weight on it, it flattens out. So if you look on a freeway, you're going down the freeway and you'll see a flatbed truck, and you look at that back empty trailer, there's a bend to it. So when the weight goes on, they're basically steel beams with a flat floor that when you weight it up, it goes flat. If you overweight it and it does this, then the weight is on the wheels and that thing's going nowhere. But we want to get to the flat zone. And so when we design these floor joists, this resistive moment tells us how much bend is in the wood. Does wood bend? Yeah, it does very well. And that's why we use it for seismic. The sucker was growing a tree, it was hit by the wind constantly. So it has a lot of bendability. And that's really good. It also, if we lay the tree correctly with the grain going vertically, it has a lot of compression as well. So by how we orient that wood determines the strength of it and what we can do to it. Other areas in here, there's interactive. These are more things that an engineer would want to use to maybe maximize our design. We need to know from this page all the sizes. Now, what that means is if you can't find the eye joist in Revit, you use this to make it. Okay, so you're basically, if you get down here to the 560s, this top piece, if you look at those sizes, that is a 2x4 with a piece of plywood between them that is, what is that one? 7/16 of an inch thick, so a little bit over half, a little under half. So that's what these are made of, and that's what makes them so strong, is we're mixing dimensional lumber with plywood engineered lumber, which is our plywood. Okay, so that's sheet 6, really important one to have in your design folder. And by the way, you can download these, and so you can get them quicker. I just use the web now. I used to download it every 4 months, and then I started finding I was downloading a copy for every project, and I was going through my files last year. I had 23 copies of the same thing, so I've stopped downloading. Now, here we have the real important thing. I'm going to try and get this to be a little bit larger. Page 7 is where we need to go here. These are our floor span tables, and these become super, that's like the one thing we need of all things, okay? So for those that came in late, like Abigail, we're at Weyerhaeuser.com looking at the span charts. Is where we're at. Now, there's 2 charts here. The first one is a live load. That's L means live load. Give me an example of live load, please. What's live? You are live. Things, yeah, you're live. What else do we live load in a house? We are, that's an obvious. Your dog would count, right? What else? Pets count for sure. Some of those mastiffs are heavy. What else? So what's the criteria that's common between you and the dog besides being a living thing? Moving. So all of your furniture counts as live load. That's a lot of weight in a house. Your floorings count as live load because they can be changed out. So like carpet is considered a live load. Carpet gains weight over time. And what is the weight that it's gaining? Dirt? What's in that dirt? It's not
Like skin cells?
Skin cells, lots and lots of skin. The human body sheds daily. We're not like a reptile that sheds once a year or maybe twice a year. We shed daily, and we shed in the millions of cells every day. So to give you an idea of what that would be like, a mattress gains 80 pounds every 10 years. That's pretty crazy. So that's why in all your mattresses, when you buy them, they're for 8 years is the expected lifespan because they get so full of stuff. Yay. You didn't need to know that, did you? So if you're using your brother's mattress, yeah, it's getting heavier all the time. Cool. Okay, so let's look at how this is going to work. We have a live load here of 180. Then this chart itself is broken into two categories. On the right side is a 40-pound live load and a 20-pound dead load. So what are our dead loads?
The walls.
The walls, the building itself, yeah. And so we have to add now into our live load a couple of other elements, things that move that we don't think about. Water and snow are live load. Wind is a live load because it's not constant, it changes. And the wind that we get in Utah is pretty severe. We are now planning for a daily wind of 90 miles an hour in Utah. 10 years ago, that was 75 miles an hour. So we have increased our wind loads here. Part of that is climate change. Part of that, the end of the world. I don't know, one of those two. Take your pick. It's all the same in my world. So we have these extremes. Now, if I look at this, which side, left or right, would I want to use to design for an 200-year lifespan for a house? And that's what I designed for. I designed my homes to last 200 years. That's the average home age in Europe. Our country is barely that old now, okay? So that's a little older than that, but none of us live in cabins anymore. But Europe, there are families that are the 10th generation to live in the same house. And that says something about their construction. It's a pretty good deal. Even though it's not to our standard, it has survived multiple wars and takeovers and earthquakes and all kinds of stuff. So we try and plan for 200 years. Which side is going to be the more long-term design? Left or right? Right, yeah, because you're doing for a bigger dead load. Now, the live load doesn't change on these, and that's fine. Right now, we're pretty good. But when you look at the dead load, the constant weight on a building, have you ever taken books off a bookshelf and looked at that shelf? Does it have a little bend in it? So books are an example where no one's reading the things, and so they just sit there and the gravity pulls them down. It misshapes the shelf. So you can fix that by flipping your shelves every other year. Just flip them over. But life skill. But when we add for that extra weight, that means the floor's going to have a chance to recover a little bit as things move around, especially with dead loads that we're working with. Okay, so let's look at how we use. Let's look at the other chart. This has a 360 live load deflection. This one, I don't use this at all in Utah, and especially for a year like we're about to start. Year 2020 is an El Nino year. El Ninos usually mean for us increased snow weight. We had snow, really heavy snow pretty early already. So the expectation this year is for a heavy snow year, kind of like 1993. And you guys probably weren't even alive then. In 1993, it was required that we shoveled our roofs. We had to get the snow off the buildings. It's too heavy. So we can get that kind of moisture in our snow. So I avoid this when I can, but let's see if I can get these both on the screen here. If I look at the 9.5, 110, 12 inches on center, that's OC means on center, and I compare that down with the 360 live load below, everything else is pretty much the same, but look at the difference in the spans. So on the 3060 live load, I have almost a full 2 extra feet that I can span. Okay. So when we deal with climates that have snow, and snow is our big one here, that adds weight to our building, we have to be a little more conservative about what we do with our flooring. We have to keep that all working well. Okay. So what we're looking at here is if we take our house, we want to find the span that's going to work for us the best. I may not be able to meet my goal by using the 20-pound dead load. It may not work for the house I'm dealing with. I would like to be in these 4 columns, these last 4. I may not have a choice. I may have to, and how do I fix that? If my house is too wide, what are some things I can do to lower the live load weight on that house? I can't do anything about the wind. What can I do to keep snow from building up and adding weight to my house? What's that? You can put heat tape up there or de-icing wiring that melts the snow. That's one way. Probably one of the cheaper ways of going, but you do have to replace that system because it wears out over time. You can change the pitch of your roof and make it steeper so the snow slides off faster. You can put down metal roofing, which is what you see mainly up in cabins. Metal roofing is the preferred roofing material. One, it's an 80-year roof. That means you don't have to do anything to it for 80 years. That's 2 people owning the house. That's a good deal. Whereas shingles are about every 10 years you have to change them out. You might be able to get a 20 or 30-year shingle. They say they've got a 100-year shingle, but they don't. They really don't. They just say that they don't. Mainly in Utah, we're at a higher elevation, which means we have less ozone for solar radiation to get through because we're higher up. And so things like our roofing breaks down faster. That's why we sunburn quicker. We get suntans faster, but we also have a higher rate of skin cancer in Utah than most states. Florida, you'd think there'd be a lot of skin cancer. We have more skin cancer in Utah than Florida because Florida's sea level, a lot more ozone to filter out the harmful rays, okay? So when we're looking at this, we want to do our best to span this. The typical size we want to use is 11 7/8. This is what's in your house right now, is an 11 7/8 floor with a 3/4 inch subfloor and a 1/2 inch gypsum ceiling on it. We're trying to put the stuff in between in there. So this is where we're going to try and look is the 11 7/8 area. Each row here, the 10, the 110, 210, 233, each of these increase in cost. They're also stronger. So we'd expect an increase in cost there, okay? Now, down here, you can span more. This is what the code will allow. That's the bare minimum. So a lot of engineers and architects will start with this chart. That's fine, but if you're trying to keep your building from falling down, you have to go here to add in that extra safety. So I just stay with this one. There's no point in me doing the same job twice. One, no one's paying me to do it twice. So why do it? And 2, if I'm going to end up here, I might as well start here. So I'm going to leave this up and then go back and forth for a minute. The house that I am using for the demo house is larger than the ones you guys are doing, with the exception of Wesley. I think his house is a little bit bigger than most, but other than that, we're pretty good. Make sure I got this thing doing what it's supposed to do. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull this aside for just a minute, and we're going to get our plan set up. So even if you're behind right now, you're going to want to do at least this starting point to know where the freak you are, because this is not, you don't just click on a button and get there, okay? So first thing I want to do is I want to go on my first floor level, and I'm going to start here to get an idea of where I'm spanning my walls, okay? Now, we've talked often in the past about what bearing walls are, ways I can simplify my roof. So I know there's a wall here. That's an area. There's a wall that kind of lines up in this area. There's this wall across here that all lines up. The more walls that are lined up, the easier it is to do what we're about to do. If I jump to my basement level, for example, I've kind of laid those out already here with what we've done. I've been thinking about where bearing goes. And so if I'm looking at the basement and I don't have walls here yet, which is fine, I don't need the walls to do what we're doing. If I'm spanning, let's do, then go into modify. Go ahead and jump into your, well, let's go back to the first floor because not all of you have a basement and some of you don't have any foundation, so nothing to see. But we all have a first floor. We can do the same thing here to figure that out, okay? And then use my measure tool. And if I go from, and we're not really spanning from the outside, none of your floor framing sits on the outside material, like your brick, your stucco, your siding. It's all gonna sit on the studs. So there's a middle of the wall type area you can snap to. So I'm gonna measure from that middle of the wall all the way over to the other side, opposite wall, same middle of the stud. And when I get there, I've got to get to where I can read the dang number. And I want that to be as straight as I can. So that would be a span from back wall to front wall for the house I have of 34'7". Okay, that's pretty good. And again, that size TGI can be carried by one person. It's gonna weigh maybe 60 pounds. So that's really good for labor. This keeps your labor down. Yeah, we don't put the wood floor in the garage, Rebecca. That's good. And yes, slanting the roof is a really great choice there. Sorry, I didn't see your chat. I just cut through a little late. Okay, so I got 37 feet. So find your space. What's the span from yours, from front of the house to back of the house? Find that number first. Okay, because it's gonna be different for every single one of you. And then we're gonna look at what I can do here. Okay, so in fact, I'm gonna write this down because I'm not gonna remember that number in 3 minutes. So again, little note, write that down. And now I'm gonna go back to my span charts on page 7 of my chart here. Okay, so I wanna be in the 11 7/8 category. And I'm looking for 34'7" in any of this area. There's a 22'11", there's a 23'8", a 26'1". There is no way I'm gonna get anywhere close to 34'7". It's not gonna happen. In order to do that, I would have to definitely go with a 24-inch TGI. I don't want to pay that kind of money, nor do I want my house to feel that weird. When you have a 2-foot thick floor, everything's weird. It's like Disney's Cinderella Castle. It's just proportioned weird. Okay, doesn't look right. So I'm gonna look in the bottom, see the code roll out. Look in the same area. Is there any way to get close to 34 feet? There's zero way. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing this house. Now, did any of you find ones that will work for you in your house? That's golden. Okay, golden. If you can find one that'll work for your house, then you're set. Now, what we're looking at here is finding the greatest distance across. So if I went this way, I know that's not gonna work, but they don't have to always go vertical. Your TGIs can go horizontal as well. So if I change my measurement here, and instead of going to the opposite side, I come down to this wall and go to the middle there, that's only 20'1.5" inches. That seems a little more reasonable. So if I look back at my chart again, well, crud, 20'1", just about everything in here is gonna work, especially the ones that are already bolded black, which is the most common ones used. So if they're bolded black, that's what industry sees the most. And now my next choice is how to get the fewest of these possible, okay? So I know I can go 20'1.5" inch. That makes me happy. So my next thing is, well, this will work. This will work. So that's 12. There's every 12 inches I placed one. This is every 16 I placed one. Here I go 2110, that's every 19.2 inches. And by the way, all of these values, 12, 16, 19.2, and 24, all divide into 4 feet evenly. So they work with your plywood sheathing. So we don't step on a piece of plywood and fall to the floor. That would be bad. It's funny, but it's bad. Okay. So I want to maximize, and I can go all the way to 24 inches on the center if I want to go with a 560. So once I find my max, then I back it up to one I feel most comfortable with so that I can keep the cost down. Now, 19.2 is going to be a pretty good one. I like that for what I'm doing. Standard is 16 inches on center. That's the default norm. But if I can go to 19.2 and pay an extra 20 bucks for each one, I'm going to come out ahead because I'm buying 9 less than what I would otherwise. Okay, does that kind of make sense? So you're just trying to maximize your span and minimize the number. And we do that by our spacing. So I'm going to go with, in this case, it's going to be a 360. And it's going to be 19.2. And I'm going to write that down so I can come back to it again. 19.2 inches on center. Now, if that's going to be my widest point on my plan here, whoa. Ugh. And so I look at my plan again, and that is my biggest area that has no spacing on it. I'm going to check real quick, make sure this going this direction. Well, that's 26. I got to pull that back. That means on my basement, I need a wall through here as well. Okay, and I don't have that on my basement plan yet. But if I use this as a bearing point to get that number down, and you want to get all your spans less than your maximum. So this one was 20 foot. I've got to get this one less than 20 feet. And that's kind of what you're doing. You're playing this little game. Now, you do a lot of measuring. If I go this way, that's 17, that'll work. That's probably a little better way. Then I'll have a bearing wall going this way. That makes bedroom sizes. And then my stairs. The walls of your stairs are always bearing. So that's a given. So that's only 9 feet. So there's going to be a lot of work to put on here, okay, as we do this. So now we've got my sizing. Now we got to start laying the sucker out, okay? And this is where I get scary because 8 people will not know what I just do and will get lost. So I'm going to try and be very deliberate with every step. The framing is a structural element, like our foundation walls. We made structural walls for our foundation. That means we need to go into our structural plans. And right now mine are collapsed. Yours might be as well. So we find the structural plans right above floor plans and expand that. And you're not going to see as much there as we did below, okay? So when I look at that, I've got my garage footing, my finished grade, and my garage footing. None of that is where I want to put framing. None of that is, okay? It just doesn't work. So what I can do, and because these are all below my floor, they're all underneath where my floor line is. You see where that's at? You got your foundation. All of these things here are underneath the foundation top. Your TGI sits on the foundation, okay? That's kind of where it's at. So we're going to stay here in the main floor to put these on. And it's going to get really, really, really confusing here. And I apologize for that, but it's the nature of this beast. And especially since we're not all on the same page yet, okay? So I'm going to run starting right here at this corner of the house. It's going to run down to this wall line. That means that over here in the floor, that wall goes all the way across to my basement. If I don't want a wall, I have to put a beam. Okay, so wherever's not a wall, there's a beam. If you don't have any walls at all for the beam to sit on, you then have to put in columns. And this is where it gets really crazy. And where I sometimes say, why the freak did I not just have everybody do the same house plan? One, you learn more by doing different things because we talk about more when you have more challenges. So we get a bigger exposure because some of you I won't ever see after this semester again. And this is your one shot to understand how a house is put together. And if you don't go into profession, that's fine. That's your choice. That's your life. But eventually you'll all buy a house. You want to make sure you get quality stuff. There's some real crap out there that's built that won't make it 20 years, let alone 200. And they do that because they want to make it cheaper. And that's fine, but you need to know what you're looking at. All right, so here we go. Take a deep breath, because this can get a little bit crazy. And you're going to need your sections as we go here, because that's going to help you a little bit. So make sure you have horizontal and vertical sections on your plan. We're going to click on the structural tab, and we're going to go into beam, which is kind of crazy. Each of your floor joists is basically a wooden beam. So click on beam. Okay, now what's going to come up very, very first is an LVL. That's a laminated veneer lumber. That is literally what that is. It's taking 2x4s and gluing them together and then putting them into a compression to make a beam out of them. They're cheap. They're great. They look wonderful. Okay, but that would be for over your doors, your windows. These are header pieces. If you click in the box, you're going to get a bunch of others. You're going to get your dimensional lumber and 2x10s and 2x12s. And those are pretty commonly used for framing. This is much more expensive to go with dimensional lumber. When you do a 2x12, that means the tree must be at least 18 inches in diameter. That's an old tree. And the 2x12 is cut out of the center of that tree. Okay, well, how many 2x12s can get out of one tree? Maybe 4 if I cut it right. Okay, that's not very efficient. Okay, so then it comes down here to the plywood web joist. That is our TJIs that we're working on right now. And we have in there a 1 3/4 by 14, and we have an 11 or 1 3/4 by 7/8. Look that back in there. So the way we've set it up is you want to go with the 3/4 by 11 7/8. That's what I figured would work for every plan that I've given you to choose from in some configuration. And that's going to work. So go ahead and click on that. Now, if you need to make one, again, looking at page 4 and stuff, you can go in here and these can be changed. There's A and B sizes. You can change those sizes on that. And then you just make the new beam out of it. So if I'm looking at my web, my depth is 11 7/8. My breadth, so it's depth and breadth. That's what B and D stand for, which is old school crap. Width and height. Makes more sense. B is a width, D is a height. So I change the thickness of the top and bottom members, and that changes that. Okay? Everybody with me so far? Now, fortunately, I don't have to change any of that, so that's good. But that's how you do it. You can also then always duplicate and rename. So that goes out saying. Okay, people, here we go. To place this, I want to look at my reference line, and I want to look at the geometric position, the start point. It also has an end point and what it's made out of. Now, that's all good, but what's going to happen is the start and end right here. If you place these in 3D, in the 3D view, that means they will be at whatever freaking angle you click, which means you could have a floor joist sticking up through your chimney. Okay, you have to place these and pay attention to those start and end points, because these can also be used as roof rafters, which means they're at an angle. You have a start angle and an end angle, and that sets that height, the start and end height, and that sets the angle. Oh, gosh, why does he always go back? Okay, here we chime in all over the place. All right. So when I place this, I'm going to come right down the corner here, and then find the middle of the wall, and then start a line, and then drag that all the way straight across until it gets to the other wall. and then place it, and it's going to disappear because it's underneath my floor. Oh, okay, it's under the floor. So what we're going to do here then is see if we can find where that went. And it's not that I don't know it. It's under your carpet. It's underneath your tile. It's underneath your main floor. It's just there. Just draw one. Okay, and only one. I'm going to take now and then use my modify, and then move my horizontal, and then slide that up. Yours might be vertical, depending which way your house is oriented. But I'm going to go into this view, and right there is my framing member. And I picked the wrong freaking one, so I'm going to change that real quick. Looks like that. There's my shape of my floor joist. Now, it's underneath my floor here. It's actually right at the same level as your subfloor. It's a little high, okay? But we're going to go in and fix all that as we go. That's why you're putting flooring down and so forth, okay? Now, the next thing I want to do, I can just go here. You can click on this, and you can start doing copies, and you can actually do the array here and copy those all out. I find that a little trickier to do than what I want to do. So we see one, that's a good thing. Okay, like in all things, we have multiple ways of getting there. Over on our floor plans, if you'll go down to first floor framing. Okay, we looked in structure, wasn't there? Let's go to first floor framing now. There's my member right there. There is my floor member. Now, what I'm also seeing on here, these guys, there's my main floor. These are my finished floors that you see. Okay, so you just see everything that's involved in the framing area, except the walls. Is there a way to get the walls back? Is there a way to see the walls here? Yep, there is. Go down to your underlay, and you can bring on either your basement or your first floor. And so you can see where the walls are. Okay, that just kind of gives you an idea. This is a little cleaner. I hope you appreciate this. This is a pain in the neck to set up. So this template will save you many hours of setting up sheet sizes, okay? Now that I'm in here, and I'm gonna go ahead, I don't need this. I'm just gonna hide this in the view. I don't need that there. So here's it's always a show as a single line. They'll never show as a 3D line anywhere. So let's select that. And what we found out is these need to be at 19.2 inches on center, going, in my case, to the left over to this area right here. So I'm just going to go into modify. I'm going to use the offset tool. I use the offset tool one. It only goes straight. It's not going to make me go at an angle and make stairs out of it. Okay, so I click on offset. And what you're looking at here is just doing this offset area. Make sure it's on copy and put in the value of your spacing, whether it's 12, 16, 19.2, or 24 inches on center. So in my case, it's 19.2 inches. Just type that in and it will convert it. Then I just have to come down to my floor joist, click once, then go to the next one. And I can keep just moving those across and get those all in as I just move across there. It makes it a little easier that way to just kind of see where they're going and know when to stop. And right there, I'm going to stop. That fixes this area. I'll go back to section. Oh, look at those. They're also nice. So pretty. If I zoom up on there, again, they're up right up where my flooring is. Okay. So we're going to do something else before we get further along this. Yes, sir.
How do you get the
It's down in the floor plans. There's one called first floor framing. The TGI here? I gotta go find out. Hang on tight. I'll be right back. Okay, so you are in the framing. You go on the beam.
You choose your, you done this already? Where's that? Okay. So then we go modify. Offset. And what size is your bigger space? Well, these charts. Which one is it? Which standard? Which how far do you need to go? So this is 2019 or 23. So you gotta go 6 inches less. So you gotta go in here. Here, this. 6 inches. And you select this and then go over this. Okay, any others? So the spacing is what you determine from the chart for your distance. So you're standing, how far is it going from one end to the other? So you're gonna go 25 feet, there's not one that'll meet 25 feet. So that means you've got to change and break up the space for that span. Crazy. Let me throw some up on the screen here. Let's maybe explain this a wee bit better. Okay, so I'm going to try and get a better explanation. Okay, hang with me, folks. Okay, we're going to do lecture 2B on this. I'm going to go back to, now you guys just, if you watch, maybe it'll be a little better. I'm going to go back to my first floor plan. And I'm going to try and mark this up so you guys can see what's happening, okay? With your spans, you have to decide where those are. That's your role as the designer. In fact, I'm gonna go into the basement because it's less busy, and so I can show this a little better. And I'm gonna get rid of my top overlay for right now. And that's just so I can show you what I'm gonna do here. So I have this basement layout, and I'm gonna go and use some markups on here. And I'm going to use, here's a freaking highlighter. Figure out what I want to use here. It's kind of a mix in the dark here. Okay, so if I'm going here, I've got this area right here. I'm going to just bring that line down. I'm going to block out over here. I've already kind of figured out that, well, I'm missing some footings, that's okay. This area here needs some framing that could extend down to here. This is the garage, there's no framing there. And then break it up right here because this is the area sized. And so when I change my framing, this span, it's a support, and I'll put red where the supports are. This wall here is a support. This one is a support right down here. This one will support the weight of the floor. This is supporting the weight of the floor. So support here. This will all be supported. So the blue is the areas that I've broken out that I need to put floors on. This is gonna be a little bit of a problematic area right here. So I'm gonna make the frame sit this way. Now I put this one in because there's stairs here. So I've got kind of double duty going on in this area here. The weight is going to be across the bottom here, across this wall. Now, when I put in the framing for these, the ones that I've done so far start right here. And this is that fireplace area sits right here. There's one that comes across here. And then they would be every 19.2 across. And I'm just exaggerating this for demo purposes, because I get to clear this all off in a minute. So they're gonna go this way. And if it would help, if you need to, go ahead and make a screenshot and color it up. If you need to print, we can do that too, so you can mark these up. Then I'm gonna frame across this way because it's shallower. So I'm planning that out. Now, as you do more of these, you don't need to do all this planning. That's probably my weakness, is I've done enough of these. We don't take the time to do this, and where everybody is so not here, it's a little harder to do this. Now I've got this area here that I cannot span. I know I'm right at max right here. So these are gonna have to go this way, just like the other side of it. But I don't have support in this area. There's nothing holding those guys up. They're just hanging there. That is like, oh, red flag, be careful, I'll be aware, don't screw up. And I keep going and forget about it because that's what I do. And they just lay these all out. They're getting sloppier as I go, but that's okay. You get the idea of the direction. Now, when I come down here and I'm gonna do another distance on here, I don't want to be right aligned, offset it a little bit, and so they're not exactly lined up. You want a little bit of an overlap between them. So then overlap just a little bit, and it's a little, not a big deal. Once you get them drawn, they don't, it's not too bad. But, and this will come all the way over now. And these will be coming this way to the stair. And there'll be a little bit of stair framing here. And I haven't drawn my stair, but you'll get the idea where I'm going. So I get it all laid out. That's where all my floor drifts are, is the green layout in that orientation. That means that my 20-foot, 1 1/2 inch span meets all of those conditions. I want a size for one, then I want every one of my joists to be the same size, being 11/7/8, and the same series. In this case, it's like 320, okay? Then I can do a mass order. If they're all the same, I'm gonna get a better price than if I have different ones at every part of the house. So it just makes it a little more straightforward. Now my next problem is gonna be this, is these areas right here and here, where there's no support. In these areas, and I'll mark that with, oh goodness, what are you gonna be able to see? We'll mark those with, oh, we'll go pink, what the heck. I need in here a beam there, and then need a beam in the basement floor, in the basement ceiling, the first floor, and then need a beam there. That's the big heavy pink line, because there's no other way to do it. But I can't put a beam across 20 feet, that's easy. This is definitely less than 20 feet, so I got that covered, that's cool. And then this same beam will be used if I need, like over my garage door. So there's a door, they'll need a beam over that. And we'll get to these as we do the second floor. You also need headers. Remember our wall section detail we did last quarter? I need headers. I'm not gonna use this same beam. That's just too big. A 12-inch beam, that's crazy. That would cost me a small fortune to put windows in. So what I'm gonna do there, I'm using orange, over anywhere there's a window is gonna be a header. And so I've got some windows here, there's a door here, a couple more windows here. I know there's a window here, one back here. And so where I know I've got windows, this orange is gonna be my header. And I was told once by a very wise architect, probably the first guy I worked for in this field, he said, we have all kinds of 2x12s laying on the job site. That's what people use for planks. It's how they put down for mud. Why don't we use it up rather than throw it away? And so I use 2x12s or 2x10s. They cut them and they build headers out of that. It's cheaper than buying the headers. And so what they do is they go the width of the window, they add 6 inches to that, so 3 inches on each side. So remember a 4-inch corner for the door. So we have an extra, we have 3 inches for this to sit on. They take two 2x12s or two 2x10s, and really the 2x10s will work. I let them use whatever they've got lying around. Usually it's 2x12s, almost always. The contractor says, hey, I've got all these 2x12s, what do I do with them? Cut them up and put them in the house. Why throw them away? And so in between that, they'll put in the sheathing that's left over from the extra house. So usually 3/4 inch sheathing. So everywhere there's a window, they've cut a hole in the sheathing for that window. So they use that all up. And that goes in between the 2x12s. And it gets nailed and glued together. There has to be both. And I prefer that they use screws and nails, but I can't always get my way, and I'll never see it because by the time I get there to look, it's covered up. But as long as it's glued and screwed, that's what I put on my notes, glue and screw. They might use a nail. It's gonna be glue. The glue is stronger than wood, so it's not that big a deal. that goes over all my doors and windows. Okay, we'll do that. That's a show on the next level up. So we just keep working our way through here. So this is what I'm going to reproduce. Okay, and close that out, and then go back to my framing. Well, that's a different scale. How nice. Match the picture. I don't think I can match that. There we go. So that's what I'm trying to create, is reproduce that. Okay. And so just making sure you find your biggest span and find out which one that'll be that works, and then you use the same thing for everything else. Okay. Wow, it's going longer than I wanted to. That's okay. So I'm going to go in now and I'm going to try and clean this thing up. And so that's what I'm starting with here. I don't have the beam here yet. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to just go in and I'm going to go structure again. I just made dots in my house. Go back in the structure, back to the beam. And then just like the foundation, anytime it's structure, you have to go in and reset every time you click. These are going to come across. And there's my wall, my floor. So we go from here and across. Now the question should be, how close to the edge? As long as the distance from the edge of your wall to the framing is less than the spacing. So as long as it's less than, for my case, 19.2, it works. So if I'm 12 inches off, that's great. The contractor will lay those out, and then I go back to my offset, setting still there, and I start bringing these guys down. And just keep going to get them all in place. I know, I just doubled it up. I'm sorry. Okay, now what's going to happen is you go into your section, these are all set here. Okay, now before you guys get going, there's a fix we need to make now before you go too far, and it makes a lot of extra work for you. Okay, so if I look at my floor here, that floor is just a void. There is no substance to it. It's got color, but it's like I painted air. That's really all it is. There's no flooring there. It's just air. Okay, it's a spacer. It tells me, this is why this note is so detailed. It tells me it's 11/7/8, and there's my 11/7/8 TGI, but it's not even close to touching the bottom. Okay, it's just not there. And it's got 3/4 inch OSB, which is the subfloor, which it's now inside of. Okay, so when you put these down, all of these guys need to move down 3/4 of an inch. Okay, now it's better if you do this with the first one, okay, and then do your offset, but you have to do it in the section to see it. So if I click on this guy right here, and I told you, pay attention to your start and your end. These need to both be negative 0.75 inches. Do not do 0.75 feet. That's 9 inches, in case you don't know. And I'm going to do the same thing for the end. Notice this guy's already changing. He's zipped up in the air. I'm so glad. He's gone at an angle. You want to see what he looks like? It's really pretty. There he is. He's coming up like a shark, sitting up through there. Okay. Go back here to my section again. Oh, I can't. I lost you. Stupid teacher. I gotta get a hold of it. Oh, that was such a bad idea. All right, hang on. We're gonna do this back. Okay, so when you set these, the first one is a negative 0.75 inches at the start. The end is also the same. I put feet in that. Minus 0.75 inches. Apply. Now, when I zoom up on that one, there's a gap there. It's now below my subfloor level, but there's a ½ inch at the bottom now for your ceilings. Okay, super important this is moved down. Now, you can change all these at once if you do a window around them, and you do the exact same thing again, minus 0.75 inches. And minus 0.75 inches. Pay attention here, don't watch over here, it'll make you sad if it goes wrong. And that gets them all moved down. So they do need to sit down below so that when you go into your 3D mode, they're not sticking up to your carpet. Okay, super, super important. Okay, that's why that note is so freaking long on that floor. It's made to help you guys out. Otherwise, we just call it floor void, and that would have told you nothing. Okay. So that's what you're doing today is the first floor framing is getting all this framing there. Notice you won't see it once you adjust it. It's now gone from this area. So you have to make a choice. Do you want to see them or do you want to adjust them? It's not both ways. I wish it was. I wish life was an easier fix, but you have to keep track of what you're doing as you're working this, because now that these are all moved down 3/4 of an inch, I can't see them. These guys here, I could do this and select them all and then move them down here as well in plan view, but you have to pay attention to what you're doing. And I'm going to promise you, there'll be a few of you that have these things sticking up from the basement to the second floor. They'll be all the way up through there. And that's fine. You can fix them, but you just have to be aware that you're going down 3/4 of an inch. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Yes.
Do we do that to all of them?
Yeah, you do. And I, really, you might find it easier to get them all in. There's just window the whole thing and select them all. Just be careful if you do a window like this, you're going to get your concrete pads, your floor, your carpet, your tile. So if you're selecting them all, do a crossing window like this and get just what you intend to select. So just as long as you're intentional about what you're doing, it's not bad, but you just have to have a plan of how you're going to do that so you can get these laid out. And you're going to make mistakes. I'm not expecting you guys all to be perfect on these the first run through. You're going to make mistakes on it. We're going to have to do some fixing. But when you get into your section views, this is where you're going to check, make sure you've done it right. If you're not seeing it here, it's going like this. And you'll go along to, oh, why is number 4 missing? Well, it's sticking up there. And if that's the case and you can't find it, that's where this other section comes into play. You slide him over and you go into that view, and they should look like this. They're pretty substantial, and you'll see where they're at. So that's kind of what you're looking for in there, is getting everything put in place so you can see them. And so I know that right there, when you pick that void, you can see through it and see what they're missing. So it's a little bit more work than what you may have hoped for, but it's not as bad as what it may feel like right now. Once you get them down correctly, they do go pretty quick, and they make a lot of sense. But we do have to do those. Now, before I go with this, you also have to bring them up for your porch. They have to come up on your porch, especially the porch that's wood. So you'd be running them like this, and they would come from the wall up to the edge of the deck. Don't come all the way to the deck if you can. Just come up a little bit to it. We've got some more to do on these, but leave a little gap. Okay, these are just representational. They don't have to be perfect. What you want is about 1.5 inches here. And I don't want you to measure it right now. Don't put that. We're going to fix that in a different manner. I don't know if I'm going to go how much more time I'm going to have to get these spot on, fully framed model. It is possible in Revit to show every wood stud, every piece of wood, but you have to put it all in, just as if you're building the frame of the house. Okay. So what I want you to do is work on getting that floor down. I've got to go bail out the 2 that need foundations right now and make sure they're good. Let's see, let's start with the online. Is there any questions about what we need to do here?
I have a question.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the floor plans in the browser,
Okay.
and I don't have the first floor framing. Am I supposed to create that?
No, that should come with the template I gave you to use.
I don't think it's Because I'm using the laptop, I don't think it's on the,
It's in the Canvas course, you download it,
okay.
but it should be part of your file if you've been using it all along. So when you open that file, that template's the file you're working in.
Cause you sent me the file that is the
GTI
Like-
24x36.
the IFC file. Remember how for it to update it, not update it, but to change it so it will fit with the 2020 version instead of 2021.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I don't know
Okay.
if that created a problem with that.
So yeah, you won't have that set up on that one because I did that for 2021. We go in on your in your basement. Can you see your basement plan? Do you have that?
I don't have a basement.
You don't have a basement? Okay. All right. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna lay it out like it started with on the main floor. And so it's gonna be really cluttered there for a little bit and then move it down. So remember when I started them here. I did my structure beam, selected the beam, and I drew it here on this main plan because they're set. So the top of these TGIs at 0. And now if you can't see it there, the thing to make it so you can, if you go into your section, is you, for right now, you can take that floor and your carpeting and hide them. So if I select it here, go back here, and I hide in the view that entire floor, then I should be able to start seeing, I think I picked too many things there. So that guy there, nope, this one here, should start to show in that plan. And I've got carpeting down and everything else right now. I've got to get out there. So if I go into this view, so I'm hiding my flooring is what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm gonna select, go to the first floor and hide those out so I can see them. That might help with you. I'm trying to figure out how that template was to get you to where you need to be. Do you have in your structure plans? What do you have in your structure on that template? Sorry, I'm trying to remember that template. It's been a while.
I'm not seeing the structural plans. It says substructure and superstructure
Shoot.
at the
I have to
bottom.
Open that template up. I can't remember what's in that. Was it IFC? I thought I sent you one for class architecture. That's what I sent you. Let me go look, because that IFC is very foreign to me right now.
The email you sent me was for the IFC.
I don't even have a template called IFC. I'm just trying to think what that is because I don't have anything I call IFC. Let me see if I can find what I sent you. Let's take a second here.
I think the kind of file it is.
Okay, an IFC, that's a converted Revit file. So in order to open it up, so that was your house here I sent you, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's okay. Now I know where I'm at. Okay. So you had the right template, and then I had to convert it into ASCII or binary in order for you to be able to open it. So that's why it's not quite the same. So here's what you still have access to the Canvas course, right? So when I go through and do it's gonna be a little messy. I'm not sure what it's gonna do when you get back, but we'll worry about that then. Okay. In the Canvas course, let me pull that up. And so you guys can see it. Okay, so if you remember when you go into any of the architecture courses and you come down to supplemental resources, then, and so there's gonna be kind of a convoluted little thing for you, but it's not gonna be too bad. There's template files right here. When you open the template files, it's gonna take you to a Google Drive. And in there, this is the template files. So Rebecca, here's what you're gonna have to do, okay? You're gonna go in and you're gonna download the GTI architecture 24x36 template. Just put that in your downloads. And I'm gonna do your house just like I'm doing, okay? So the project you're in now, you're gonna save it and just close it out. Leave Revit open, but just close it all out. Okay, and then you're gonna download this template. I'll go ahead and download it to you for the 80s of it.
So just exit out my project. but
Yeah,
leave
just
Revit
close
open?
your project and then download this template. And if you want to just watch and take notes, it might be just as fast for you as rather than waiting for your computer to catch up. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to actually use your file. Okay. So I'm going to close these all down and cancel all this stuff that's going on. And so for those of you, when you get stuck, converting between areas is kind of tricky. So I'm going to go and just open, in this case, Rebecca, you're going to open a new project. Okay, so we hit new project, and you then browse probably into your downloads area on your computer. And you're going to find that GTI 24x36. Okay, so then just open that back up again. And we hit OK. So that's an open, just like day one, all over again. Okay. Go into your first floor, because that's where all these floors are. And then what you're going to do is this next step. You then go into at the top, insert, find the insert tab, then link Revit. Because now that you've got your file working that you're using, it's a full-fledged document again. So we're going to link that file. It's no longer an IFC file. Is that correct? You've changed it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe so.
So you're then going to find your file and link that. Now, I don't have your file, so I'm going to use the IFC link, which would not be updated. But I want to show you it's just that same process. And then go to where it's stored. And here, and you gotta remember where this thing's stored at. It's in student project files. Right here, and there is your folder, and there's your house. They go open. And then what's gonna happen when that gets loaded in, it's in a place that don't move it around when it comes in. Well, you can, it's all blocked right now. So when that comes in, you can kind of position it in between the 4 elevation windows again. So it's a little bit of an extra step for you, but I think it's gonna put everything back together. Hopefully, and that's why I'm gonna try it here to see what happens. Because this moving everybody back and forth in distance is kind of tricky. So let's see what that does. It should take it a minute to load. It's probably a little longer for you. The rest of you, go ahead and put that framing in and then spend the rest of the time finishing what you don't have. And then we'll help you guys with foundations here in just a minute. It'll only take a minute to do all that, surprisingly enough. But I want to get Rebecca squared away here so we don't lose a full 3 weeks for her. And it's just another thing. Yours should go much faster bringing in the Revit file rather than the IFC. The IFC, it's got to be rebuilt, and so it's going to take a little while to do that. But when you look down here, you should see all the floors now that you need. Okay.
Okay.
And this is probably going to take, it stopped responding. It's probably taking about 10 minutes. Are you okay if I go help these other guys in their foundations while you're doing that conversion?
Yeah.
Okay. So that should put everything back together for you. And so you have a working file. Oh, wait. Could you open that template file?
Open the
The
GTI
arc-
architecture.
Yeah, the GTI ARC 2436. Did that open?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, so yeah, because I thought I made that on 2020, so we can use that. So okay, I'll be right back. If you get something that comes up, holler. I've got the volume up. I'll hear you. I'm gonna try and get these guys with some foundations real quick, so that they can move forward as well. Okay, I'll be right back, folks.
Like, since this is not on this thing, I just copy like the 12 inches on it.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yep. You can rotate it horizontal, vertical.
Yeah.
You're good, sir. Good job. So you're gonna be in this area, what's your distance? Okay. So then we've got to find in this, so 2211 works. 2011 works, right? No, 22 one. So you 22 is that one, or 28, 22 here, or 23. So that it has to be, the number here has to be greater than each step. Horizontal. Then break it up. Yeah, so your basement, that's just waiting for walls. There's a wall there that breaks it up. So if it's a wall, so you say that wall there exists, you want to go that distance. With that wall, you can go all the way across. Because it's supporting the middle. The divisions. Yeah. So span, whatever supports it. So if you've got 3, then you can span it. You've got 4 equals 3. Okay. Okay, you want to, oh, you got put a footings on. Okay, so that's you want structure. You know, here's the footing. Oh, you are using this one right here. No, this one. Here, that's- you just like- So you're not that. And then put the same thing underneath that. Okay. Foundation. So just look at those and match them. Makes sense? Okay, my friend.
You know, get somebody to refill my water bottle.
What? What are you asking me? I just gave crap.
Do you know where there's a place to refill my water bottle?
There's one on the 5th floor and there's one on the 1st floor.
One in the first floor.
They all. So that, or if you aren't opposed, there are seats in the restroom. That's kind of the, yeah, that's all I got, because they shut them down because they figured you guys figured out balances. They give you code. No one's licking the damn faucet. If they are, they should be shot. All right. That's it. All right. So, you have stairs on this plan as well. So you just have this thing floor. Right? Oh, so easy. Okay, where are the stairs? Oh, the stairs. Yeah, I mean, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're actually go into okay, you want to use level to put that new fashion.
internet being attached to this guy. You lock yourself out. Okay, so I'm gonna be able to fix this thing just there. The Windows. So what you're looking at is your still height should be. All right, so now I got this done in the sub-4. You click on these, it says level 1. Let me see that just change the first one. Eventually there is a move off of that. And then I'm going to start getting the foundation with the right click. We're going to create similar. And this is going to be 8 inches. Pull this guy out. This is the meaning. We're going to do modifier to replace the meaning. So call that finish grade. Yep, your graphs. Ready? Let's make corresponding views and plans. And then below that, we'll put in this somewhere. This is going down 3 feet. And this is a 2-period, 4-period garage. 2-period, not, they're not spilling T, man. The capital though, means it's small, like TO, like top up. Yeah, 2-period, or you put that top up. But that's a lot more. There's space, garage. Ready? Then when it comes down, another one, 12 inches. It's similar to the oops. This about. Modified. Let's see what this. This is below. We could period grass. Will you ask the online if Rebecca's got that okay? It's working.
Rebecca, do you have that working?
Is it working?
Is it working?
Yeah, it came up.
She said, yeah, it came up.
Sweet. Okay. We're good then. We should be in good shape.
He said you should be in good shape then.
Now, this is in good shape back. All right. Now we're ready to make it pretty. We're going to go to the big. We can't see anything, so make it safe. That is relay. We want to see the main floor. Now, the nice thing about yours is probably the same. Now, on yours, this is the bearing wall. One of these is there. By the way, let me just tell you real quick. If you've got a wall that's in the basement, it's not exactly where you want it, as long as it's within 2 feet, it works. Your bearing points can be 2 feet off. They'll be qualified. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go down to structure. We're going to do the wall here. We'll change this 300. We're going to go in this case with foundation. We're going to trace this all off and use the we want the top of the plate is the base. This is about 2, the foundation. Top of the watch. Now, we put down here, go to the corner. This place. here. Now I'm going to you got not to go too far because you got locked in shot on this. So you can we like to now the next thing is a 49 piece. Also the structure with this wall, two walls. And because you're doing the options here, you can make it so we'll start here and do this site. Now you got we want to use one that's not quite this wide. Edit it. Duplicate it. Take off two. Double. And we want to go 30 inches. So the rule is on the front of the wall, it's 8 inches, multiply by 3 is 24, 10 inches off of 3 is 30. That will make it large enough that the engineer will say, yep, good job. Because if it's larger than we need, it's safe. Okay? So get okay there. Let's change this to match. 30 inches there. Okay. And here's what this one is. So just go around and get all those walls. Then you can go and finish their stuff. Okay. We'll just keep adding. No. That's up. Well, are you going 16 feet or 16 inches? What's your house?
Dr. Paskett,
Dr. Paskett,
24
someone
feet?
has a question.
Yeah, we're gonna, yes, you need to be 24 feet.
He said he'll be right there.
Okay. So you just put 24 in for the statement. So it'd be great if you do that. I would do yours is 16 inches, 1.5 feet. Can I use? Yes. Yep. Do that. Yep. Okay, back to the questions. Yeah, grab yours and look like. What is it? Oh, it looks like the. Okay, so go back to where you were. Okay, so we're seeing something different. Okay, so there is showing up here. Draw that for this part. Is that what you purchased? No. You don't have it. Oh, I have a movie code. good area. Yeah. Be right there, online folk. They're going from an angle. They're starting out at 6'3" and going down. So they're seeing a slope in there. That's how they're switched out. So that's what's going on. That's a negative 0.3, 0.75 inches for both. So you're floating up above in the air. That's why they're not showing. So negative 0.75 inches. Okay, I made it back. There's only 20 questions in between. Who's got the question?
I do.
Oh, cool.
So it seems that when I am, so the entire, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of how I can explain this. From the way it looks, my entire house seems to be one component. Is that supposed to be
So
how it
what you do
happens?
is select it. And I was trying to get this one to come in. It doesn't look like it did. When
Try
you're
zooming
in
out.
there, if you select it, you should have at the top, it should say something like bind. So you want to bind it and then you select again and you ungroup it. Let me see if I can make that happen.
Try zooming out because it might be all,
There it is.
yeah.
Okay, so this is what yours is like. This is your plan. So you select,
Yeah.
you want to bind the link. So you select it and then at the top, right by where it says add in, you should say bind it. And then make sure you pick levels and grids. Just bind everything. And this is say, hey, this is really big. Yeah, I know it's big. It's a house. So, and it might stay in there that some of your like image files aren't quite there. You might have to do that when you get back, put all your materials back together. That doesn't take too long. And so when that gets bound, it's just about done here. Then you have to go in and ungroup it. 62%, 63%. Okay, so now when I select it, it's still in here as, oops, gotta remove the link once you get it in there. That little box will come up. Now, when I still select, it's still one item. And so I get that collected. And then once you get it clicked, there's ungroup. When you ungroup it, it goes back to like it was a brand new file. So just ungroup it. Okay. And you might have to click on it a couple times to get that to trigger in. But that'll put it, but before you do all that, move it where it should be, and then you should be good. Okay.
Okay.
You're learning a lot more extra. This is like advanced stuff. I usually don't teach this till junior year of college, that stuff. A good house, it looks good. Okay, we're moving quite along here. Wow, this class is flying by. Okay. The rest of you guys doing good? We lost a few of you, it looks like. And remember, today is Whopper Wednesday. Get your Whopper for $1 if you use the app. And if you're really smart, you use Taco Tuesday. They've got an app for Taco Bell. So you should be eating pretty cheap. Lots of steps here. So again, we're getting down to the where it gets to the nitty gritty stuff. I know it's not the funnest to put these in, but you do know how to do framing plans. It's kind of important. William. Well, hello, William. Glad you can make it today. Howdy, William. What you gonna do? Are you complaining about the snow? That's what the freezes cold.
Versus like states that the bad bad weather.
Yeah, it's really bad. It actually goes up. Yeah. Yeah, actually, the winter does cause cold. We were hoping for a hot summer. Oh, nice. Okay, I'm gonna close this one up. Well, we got, you know, so remember, the spring hold wall on your first part. That's what you're trying to hold on. Not this. Yeah. Adjustment of desk. I don't believe that's furniture. I have to go back and do my. I know I don't usually put furniture.
For whispering
Huh. Yeah, I usually don't put furniture in my house because I do architecture. But let's go into the library, and there's furniture, and cabinets are in storage. So library, furniture, storage is where those are at. As far as a desk, I think that's under commercial. Tables, there's a desk under tables. Hopefully that helps. I had to mute check because I was getting feedback. You must have a really good internet connection. You're welcome, sir. Did that? Hopefully you found what you needed there. Rebecca.
I just have another quick question. So you said you ungrouped the, no, wait. You said you removed the link. How did you do that part?
It's a window that comes up in the, usually in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. Once you bind it, there's a window that pops that says, do you want to remove the link?
Okay.
If it didn't pop up, don't worry about it. It's the link can stay. It'll eventually ask you again if you want to remove it. It just says, I'm still remembering where I came from. Do you want to forget that? And it shouldn't be a matter. So as long as you get it bound and then ungrouped, you should be fine.
Okay.
Because if you click anywhere before you hit that box, it's just going to disappear. So it's not a critical issue. Again, just let me know. I usually will leave it, I'll move them all at once rather than individually. So it just depends on what you guys want to do with your framing as you put this in. Whatever's easiest, because it's complicated enough as it is without trying to keep track of 3D space. So this is what I meant by them not being lined up, a little overlap there. So there's two ways these are tapped. If they're sit on a wall, they're just gonna sit on the wall. And then they will make sure that they're 2 feet longer than needed and nail them together. If you show them side by side, they sit in a metal strap that nails them together. I usually let the engineer tell me which way they want that to be, and then just make a note for the contractor. I don't show both. It's every engineer I use does a different philosophy on that. Both are correct, and it's just not worth me trying to guess. So I just stagger them and let the engineer tell them what they want. It just works a lot easier. And I finally had to pay more than $1,000 for an engineer this last month. Usually I'm less than $1,000 on engineering. Now, what's happening here is they're sticking out of my house. So I should have stopped 2 back, but you can take and grab these little blue dots and stretch those lines to where you need them to be. Just don't lift up. Don't do it in 3D at all. If you just stay in 2D, you're only moving on the XY axis and you won't make a mistake.
Dr. Paskett,
Yes,
so I'm still a little bit confused at how the chart works for the framing and stuff.
sure.
I've
Go ahead and pull that back up. All right. So again, I use the more restrictive one, mainly because it makes my drawings more secure, that I'm not worried about someone getting killed. Okay. So give me the span that you want to cover. What are you trying to put our truss over? How far are you going?
So you said it's from the back of the house to the front.
Yeah, what is
right?
that distance on yours?
Okay, give me a second. It's frozen. Okay, there we go. Because for what it says is it's like 45-ish feet.
Okay, so 45 is definitely out of our wheelhouse. It's too far. So from the back of the house coming forward, is there a wall that's kind of halfway in between there?
Yes.
Okay, so measure from the back of the house to the wall. What's that distance?
Um, would it be good to do it like to the middle of each wall, or just
Yeah,
it doesn't matter?
yeah, go middle of the wall. That's good.
Okay, it's 21 feet and 5 7/16 inches.
Okay, so 21 foot sticks, let's say that. Okay, so that gives us our largest span that we're looking at. So you can look at any of these charts that you want to use. I like to use the 20-pound dead load because it accounts for people doing silly things like buying gun safes and putting them in the kitchen, or buying a 5,000-gallon saltwater fish tank and not telling me about it. It just gives me a little bit of extra dead weight on the floor, but you can use either one. So if you look, like on the 24-inch for the 9.5-inch 110, there's about a foot difference in how far they can span depending on how much weight is on the floor. So if I go here with the dead load, and you're looking at 21 foot sticks, my first one that I can use is right here, and that's if I have an 11/7/8, and I go with that at every 12 inches on center. Okay, well that's good. I want to go maybe a little wider. If I can go wider between those 12 inches is really, that's a lot of framing. It also is difficult if I have a firefighter that needs to go through the floor, put out a fire. They're not going to be able to fit that. Fortunately, I don't have to worry about that often because we have stairs. So my next one that would work would be in spacing is this guy, but that's going to be quite a bit beefier. It's going to be made out of 2x4s, a little stronger. I'm not opposed to that, but if I back up just a little bit, if I'm going to go on 21 foot 6, that will work, but this one will work as well. I can span 22 foot 4, which is more than you need. I can go every 19.2, which means even though it's a more expensive joist, I'm using fewer of them. And so I end up saving money that way. So for yours, it would be 11/7/8. It would be a 560 series at 19.2 inches on center. And so
Okay.
you'd offset every 19.2 inches. And that would give you a good spacing.
So basically the chart is as you go further right, the more expensive it will be, but the more
As you go
sturdy.
down, if you go on the series, so right in this, the 110 is the cheapest, 560 is the most expensive. And it's also the
Okay.
strongest. So weak to strong is how it works as you go down the chart. Left to right is the space in between the floor joists.
Okay.
Okay? And so what you want to do is you want to make the maximum span, but with the fewest joists you can get.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, if you want to do something like we did in the 70s, we thought we ever needed a sunken living room. We had to step down to converse. And so we do the whole house out of 11/7/8, and then we do the conversation room out of 9.5, and you have to step down into that space. It's a lot more thinking in that case, but we don't have to worry about that. So we just do the whole floor flat and you'll be good. And just remember, once you get them in there, move them down 3/4 of an inch, both the start and the end. Important, huh? Otherwise it looks really, really weird in 3D.
So I have another question.
Sure.
if since I'm am measuring it by the room that so like from the back of the house to a certain wall, would I have to measure from that same wall to the front of the house to get this that section separately?
Yeah,
Or
so what you want to do is you want to look at where your farthest distance is and size for that. Then you use the same thing for the whole house. So you want to find your greatest span that you can do and do that for the whole thing.
okay.
Then you'll have to keep changing. But you can do it room by room. And I have seen many architects do that, where every room is sized individually. And then the contractor gets all of these TGIs that are different series and different sizes, and they have to figure out where they go. And usually they make mistakes. And so if you can avoid mistakes like that, then you have a more stable construction.
Okay.
How you doing? Making progress there? Okay, I'm gonna go back here. Hopefully the chart is kind of confusing the first few times you use it. As you get more familiar with it, things get easier. But like I say, I usually do all of mine first, and then I move them down to the right level. It is a little bit easier to see things, but it does get us to where we want to be. I'm going to go ahead and put that beam in here so you can see what that looks like, because we talked about needing a beam down this area. So if I'm doing a beam, this is where my laminated lumber comes into play. I usually try and match that with the size of my floor joist, if that's my design intent. Now, I've given you two. You have a 1 3/4 by 11 7/8, which matches your floor joist exactly. I also gave you a 14-inch. If you're looking for an architectural feature in your ceiling, that means that the 14-inch will sit down below your gypsum board area, and it will be an exposed wood beam. So if you want to see a beam in the ceiling, that's how you would do that. You just increase your beam size so you can see it, and place it where you need it. I'm just gonna go ahead with the normal because I don't really want that in my basement. And when I place that in, it's gonna go oftentimes right next to where a floor joist is, but the line type is different. So I'm gonna place one there, and let me move into my section view so you can see kind of what's going on there. Section 2. I didn't cut where my beam is. Let me go find my beam. Here, go to view. So this is the beam. Now, I really can't have them in the same space, but I can shift that over. And as long as it's within 2 feet of its support, I'm okay. Okay, they can be off by about 2 feet. So we're okay that way. So there's that beam. So that's the beam. Just sits there. It's all pretty. Pretty, pretty, pretty. You guys doing okay out there? Getting a lot accomplished today? Moving along.
With the basement.
Yeah.
You add like walls, the wall, or does the furring?
The furring does the exterior walls.
Okay.
Kind of does it all in one.
Then when we did the stairs, I didn't put enough stairs in the basement.
Okay,
How
so
did we do that?
okay, so I haven't done that on this one either yet. Okay, so the question was basement stairs. Okay, so I've got stairs here that are going up to the second floor, but I don't have any going up to the first floor. So I'm in the basement plan. The stairs always have to start on the level where the stairs always start and go up. They never start and go down. So it's always the lower level up. And so I need some stairs right here beside this. So once again, on my basement plan, then I can come in, and I believe this is what they are. They're kind of a weird structure here. Architecture, then the stair. The stairs can go from my basement to the first floor. My last idea was 6 feet wide, so I definitely don't want that. So I'm gonna go 3.5. I like a little bit wider stair if I have room for it. And this stair goes up, so I'm gonna kind of mimic that just a little bit. And I've got everything set. I have to check my settings every time because I always forget. And I'm just gonna run that right along here. Now, if I look, I'm really kind of crowded, so I'm not gonna be able to do 3.6. We'll change that to 3 foot. So it fits in that void. It's gonna be a little bit longer in this case, that's fine. I wanna shift that over. So I'm gonna check that off, and that's gonna sit right there. Now, I've got my wall here. I want a little bit of space there to kind of make it so it's not just concrete, but that's just put your stair in the basement. When you get to the first floor though, it's gonna stick up and look weird here. So what you'll need to do is either use a section or the 3D view. And where that stair comes up, you need to select your floor system, whether that's the void, the carpet, the tile, the framing. And it's best to do this before you put framing there, because you gotta make a hole in it. So once it's selected, I go to the first floor. It's all selected blue. I edit the boundary. And what I just do is I rectangle, and I go from the corner of the stair, and I just select over. And it's usually the bottom 3 steps are all that's going to be unopened. And I notice that my wall is in the road here. I've got to do some shifting in this area, which is fine. That's kind of typical. Check that off. And now I have a hole there that theoretically I should be able to see through in the 3D plan. And there's my stair coming up in the main floor. Let me hide this floor so you can see it. So hide in view. So that's my second floor stair. And I hide that. I tilt. there's my basement stair. So kind of a weird layout on this. I probably will flip that around. I'm not really happy with these stairs. When I'm gonna redesign this, and I'll show you what I don't like about it. The fact that there's 2 staircases is troublesome to me. I'm gonna reconfigure these walls on this plan. Actually, I already have. This plan's already done in plan review. This is just now become the demo. I turned this into a U-shaped stair, and it took up less space and was more accommodating to what I'm trying to do than what this ended up being. So be creative. That's the big word of the day, is be creative. That usually helps. Might as well make that change here again now. But anyway, that's your basement. Questions? Make me work.
I had the framing in first.
So if you've got the frame in first,
I just like.
let me go back here and I'll show you. No, you can delete if you'd like. What I usually do is, rather than delete, so let's say my stair is right here, just select the line and just pull them back, and then put new ones on the other side.
Okay. Well, if I already sunk them, so like I can't see them,
Oh,
should I just delete them then?
you could just, you can, let's see if I can change this view range enough to. Remember I set this up, it's kind of a pain in the neck to do this one. View depth. So I did this to kind of do what I want it to do. I got in a little trouble. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. That's good. So I moved this and it disappeared. I deleted it. So what I did, I was just modifying a floor joist and now it has disappeared. So I'm wondering if what I did with it. It's weird. Well, if all I'll do the same thing again. Where are these things going?
Dr. Paskett,
Yeah,
so out of the web joists that, how there's 2 options, am I supposed to edit one of them to?
No. No, you want to try and use 11/7/8. That's the most common. And then you have a 14-inch. So they're good to go with where they are. They should work on every house that's in my library.
Okay.
There. A big question is what heck gives 7 of my floor joists? They keep disappearing. Click that some more. Okay, Wesley, do you have any questions? The last 10 minutes here or so plus?
No, I've actually been doing pretty well today, so this is a
Wow,
good day.
having a window to look out is good for you.
Yes, it is good.
Abigail, do you have any questions? This is how I find out how many kids went out to lunch for class. Okay, good. Thank you. Crimson, how you doing, man? Glad you're back again. You are
Yeah,
not,
my laptop kind of died,
yeah,
but
pretty common.
yeah,
It's pretty common.
I think I'm doing pretty good so far.
Excellent.
I just have to hope that it saves.
Yeah, are you running off of a battery or off of the power cord?
I was running off of battery. I got on something else though.
Okay. So when you're saving it, are you saving on the hard drive? Is that what you're doing?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So the best way to make sure is when you do a save as, and it has a C colon in front of the address, then you're in good shot, good space. If it's got
All right.
another letter, then you gotta be a little concerned.
Okay.
Okay, moving down. Griffin, how you doing? I haven't talked to you yet for a minute, but that's okay.
I am doing okay.
Okay, good. And Sharon, how are you doing? Okay, I'm not sure if any came back in today. There should be several tomorrow when Taylorsville comes back. So just either you can call, they don't tell me when they come in. So the best thing is just to call the office, get your name on the next waiting list. And then they'll let me know if there's a waiting list. You're the only one today from Taylorsville. There are others that are on B-Day. Actually, quite a few on B-Day. But thanks, Wayne. How's your life going, man? Hanging in there, doing everything good, watching snowfall, listen to the sirens going up and down the street. Yeah, I heard a lot of shootings lately in Taylorsville. It's kind of funny. Taylorsville comes in like bursts. It's all quiet, and then hey, we got a meth house, and oh no, we're doing drugs, and nope, we're shooting people now. And it's always out of the blue. It's kind of funny. Whereas West Valley, it's a nightly thing. In Kearns, it's like twice a day. but that's okay. I just figure it's fixing the gene pool. We can't exclude anybody, but we'll let nature run its course, right?
I missed the part where you did the whole.
Okay. Okay, so to do that, I usually go into a section view, select your floor. Once you have it selected, and you need to do this for like the carpet floor and all your finishes. But you select them in the sections easier. Then I go back to the first floor and it'll be all selected. Then you hit edit boundary. And that'll give you the purple outline of the whole thing. And you draw a new outline around your stair. And when you already do a closed profile inside, closed profile makes a hole. And so it's kind of gross. My face is starting to itch. So William, did you check a laptop out from GTI or did you have your own? Okay, they have not told me who's checked them out. I know Cypress. Oh, Cypress comes back too tomorrow. So there will be laptops coming back. Forgot we have Cypress out there. And I checked this morning, the numbers are starting to inch back up again at your school. So if you see your friends without a mask, slap them. Say, the governor said I could do that. And I'll post the video here in just a little bit. And then I'm also posting the B-Day videos as well. Sometimes they're basically the same thing, but sometimes I do a little different approach. So give you different ideas and things.
Are we behind?
You're about the same right now. We're overall we're about a week and a half behind, and it's mainly because I slowed down to let little students catch up, and I shouldn't have done that. Apparently, we're not supposed to do that. I felt bad. Okay, online students, if you don't have any questions, you're free to start moving on to hopefully not as fun things. And there's nothing more fun than designing a house. I know it's a little tedious right now. Ideally, where you want to be by Friday, you should have all walls done, interior, exterior, foundation, all doors and windows done, all bathrooms done on all floors, all cabinets on all floors, flooring on all floors, and then the framing is kind of to be started with the frame. Because what I want to do next week is we need to put a roof on this sucker. There is an assignment for your roof plan. Just let it go late. It means you'll have if I change the date, the gray book doubles the assignment. And so if you get 100, you get a 50%. So just go ahead and submit it late and don't worry about the gray book. Only worry about Canvas. Just worry about Canvas, okay? And we'll just let that be a late one, and we'll fix that next week on the roof plan, okay? All righty, you guys have a great one. I'll stick around for a minute if you have any questions. We've got about 5.5 minutes left of class. So. They're dropping like flies. You should watch The Fly in here. I think it's fun. Has nothing to do with the course, but whatever.
We're ahead.
Wesley, you look all stressed out, man.
Well, there's just this assignment that I have to get done in order to go on a trip with my family, and so I have to finish
You
that.
can't go on a trip. The governor shut things down, man. You're gonna make Corona go crazy. Where you going?
Hawaii.
Where are you going, Wes?
What?
What trip are you taking?
What do you mean, what trip?
Where are you going?
Oh, I already said Hawaii.
Oh, you're not gonna get to Hawaii.
Yeah.
You hold your breath. We'll see what happens.
Well, we're actually leaving today.
Okay.
Yeah, we already got tested, and so we're clear to go and everything. So
I'm waiting to hear that story. It's gonna be so funny. The beaches will be all yours.
I know it's gonna be nice.
You'll see just a bunch of fat guys out there. He's not happy about that. He cringed. You don't think the girls are gonna be there?
No, not besides my sisters.
There's not a more paranoid state of COVID than Hawaii. Okay. You guys here in the class, if you have questions before the end of class hits. Things are moving along okay. Slow and steady. That's what it's all about, is getting things fixed one at a time. Again, Fridays, you're welcome to come and do. And William, you have fun doing that. You're already gone. There's no good TV on it too yet. Okay, I'm going to start moseying. Well, I hope you make it, Wes. Hope you have a good trip. Bye-bye, everybody. How you doing, Ricky? You good? Okay. No problem. Anytime. Glad we got it fixed. It's making me build new brain cells every day in this class. I figure out new ways to do the old stuff. Okay, those in class, you want to make sure you got your work saved. Make sure you know where it's saved. Please do not save it in the downloads. There's an update coming. I don't know when. And if you got stuff saved in the downloads, it'll be bye-bye gone. Make sure it's in your M drive or on your Google Drive. Can't emphasize that enough. We're at the time of year when nice, young 16, 17-year-old boys cry like little girls.
How do you get your Google Drive?
Okay, when you open up your Windows Explorer, or File Explorer, we used to call it Windows Explorer. Your Google Drive, it's probably not linked because of where you're at. So what you guys have to do on yours is go through the internet. And so you need both. So you have your File Explorer, and then when you go into Google, if you click on the waffle here, you can log right into your drive. That's the easiest way to do it. And I would recommend logging into Google and setting up everything because it's all there. Then you find your folder, and literally what you're going to do is you take your file, you drag, and you drop. That's how you get into Google. Just drag and drop it.
And you have to do that every time.
It's for saving, yeah. Yeah, it's not, unless you have the link on your computer, it's not a drive, it's a storage space. Does anyone need a USB drive? I still have a few of those for this semester. Yeah. All right, make sure you guys save. If you guys will please make sure when you shut down, you shut the computer all the way off. That gives a chance to dump that RAM, especially for the 3D stuff. They do run a little bit better when we do that.